Hare Krishna. So we'll start the session by paying our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who's founder Acharya of ISKCON. We'll also seek blessings from our spiritual master. So today we'll be discussing chapter 4th, which is titled as Transcendental Knowledge. Chapter 4th has total of 42 verses, and last time we have already covered from verse number 1 to 10. Right? Today we will be discussing verse number 11 to 15, which falls in the section titled as Krishna, the creator and culmination of all paths. So we'll do a quick recap of what we went through last time. So we discussed that how Krishna highlighted the importance of seeking spiritual knowledge through disciplic succession, right? And it is not any arbitrary disciplic succession, because you'll find there are so many gurus, right? So it's not that you can just go and seek guidance, seek spiritual knowledge from any guru. That guru should fall in one of the four Vaishnav Sampradayas, which has been highlighted very clearly in Padma Puran. Right? Will someone like to highlight which are those four Vaishnav Sampradaya, like who are the fountain heads of four Sampradayas?
Shri Devi, Brahma, Krishna, and the four Kumaras, right?
Krishna actually gives knowledge.
No. Shiva Sampradaya.
Yeah. So Krishna gives knowledge to four, like Brahmaji, Shivji, Shri Devi, Lakshmi,
and then
four Kumar. Right. And then also it is very clearly mentioned that who are the acharyas of these four successions. So will anyone like to share, if you remember, like who falls under which of the fountainheads?
Ramanujacharya, Sri Sampradaya.
Yeah. Will someone else like to highlight any and other?
Vallabhacharya, Madhvacharya, and then
No, Vallabhacharya is not there. Vallabhacharya comes under someone else.
And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
No. Look, what I'm saying is the four which are mentioned in the Padma Puran under these, like who are known as also Sampradaya Acharyas, right?
Yeah.
So under Shriji, under Lakshmi ji is who? Ramanujacharya, right? Second, let's take Brahmaji. Who is under Brahmaji? Which is the Sampradaya Acharya under Brahmaji? It's Madhvacharya.
Madhvacharya.
Right? We say this ISKCON falls under Brahma Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya, right?
Yeah.
Madhav is Madhvacharya, right? It's Madhvacharya. Does anyone know which is the main temple where Madhvacharya resided and worshipped?
Udupi Krishna.
Udupi, right? He worshipped Udupi Krishna in Udupi, right? And next is which? Rudra Sampradaya, right? So who falls under Rudra Sampradaya?
Shivji.
Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya.
No. You are all.
Vishnu Swami.
Yeah.
Shiva.
No, Shivji is the fountainhead. Which Acharya? Someone named.
Vishnu Swami.
Yeah, Vishnu Swami. So if you have heard of Vallabhacharya, Sripad Vallabhacharya falls under this sampradaya, which is starts from Shivji to Vishnu Swami. So Vishnu Swami is the sampradaya actually. Under Vishnu Swami comes Sripad Vallabhacharya. Okay, the way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, Brahma Madhav Sampradaya, Sripad Vallabhacharya took initiation in Rudra Vishnu Swami
Vishnu Swami Sampradaya.
Right? And the last is which? The fourth one?
Nimbarkacharya.
Nimbarkacharya. Who were the fountainhead of Nimbarkacharya?
Kumara Sampradaya.
Kumar. Four Kumaras. Huh?
For Kumar.
Yeah.
Four Kumaras fountainhead. Sripad Nimbarkacharya falls under the four Kumaras. Right? So these are four sampradayas, four disciplic succession under which we have to take the spiritual knowledge. It's not like, see, we are sort of studying Bhagavad Gita very deeply, right? So we should actually understand all these aspects, like, because I've seen many people have many emotions, and it becomes very difficult for them to leave these emotions behind. They carry forward, like, even though they understand that what is what, somehow they are not able to detach themselves from so-called emotions, that I'm attached to this thing, I'm attached to that thing, and they get hooked to it even after knowing what is correct and what is not correct, right? So when we understand, like, we are all sort of educated people, right? And we know that scientifically things will only turn true if you follow the process. And it is same in spirituality. It is even more in spiritual life. Your whims and fancies will not take you to the end result. If you say, this is this, this is that, and we will come across, how Krishna will highlight this again and again, right? And which is why Krishna is highlighting the importance of taking this knowledge in the disciplic succession, right? Which is why it is highlighted that which are these disciplic successions, right? And then not only that, Krishna highlights the importance of taking knowledge under disciplic succession, but he also highlights the qualification of recipient. Because what happens is, when recipients are not qualified, they try to mold things according to their own whims and fancies. Which is why Krishna has specifically highlighted, like, for example, if we get into medical schools, or if we get into engineering colleges, right, or institutes, it's after you qualify the entrance exam that you are allowed to enter into that college. Similarly, in a spiritual life, when we follow it religiously, there is a qualification of a recipient, of a spiritual seeker, right, which Krishna highlighted in 4.3. And then, in order to request Krishna to speak more about himself, right, that how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjun asked this question, that Krishna, you are my contemporary, and you say that you have given this knowledge to Vivaswan, and all that. How am I to understand this? That politeness, that humility was there in Arjun's question, because he knew Arjun is representing all of us. Arjun is asking these questions on behalf of us, because he wanted that Krishna should himself speak about himself, so that people in future should not try to twist things around. And then Krishna highlighted his unique position, right? What is his unique position? That he can remember everything. He's unborn, right? He's transcendental. His body is transcendental. The specific thing in these verses is that he highlights that how his body is different from our bodies. His body is transcendental. It is, our our mental block comes from our assumption that only matter can have a form. Our mental blocks come from limited understanding that only matter can have form, because that is what we have experienced. Anything which is non-matter, we think will not have form, right? And that is where we see through our 200 gram of brain of gray matter. While Surdas didn't need these eyes to see Krishna, but he saw Krishna. The transcendental devotees, they have transcendental intelligence, and which is why Krishna is giving this knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. We should overcome our own perceptions, our own limited perceptions, in order to understand Krishna. That Krishna's body is fully spiritual. Krishna's body is transcendental. Krishna's body is made up of Sat, Chit, and Anand. Made up knowledge, eternity, and bliss. There are many pastimes which highlight this fact, right? What fact? Krishna, when he was just 7 years old, he lifted the Govardhan hill with his left hand, little finger of the left hand. For how many seconds? 7 days and 7 nights. Right? He killed so many demons. He showed his forehand form when he was just born. He manifested so many Vishnu forms from his body when Brahmaji took his calves and cowherd friends. Right? He showed the transcendental universal form to Arjun in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So we should understand that his body is different, from our experience, right? And we should see Krishna through the eyes of his scriptures. That we have to see Krishna from our ears. What we hear about Krishna from Krishna. That understanding should be very clear. And then with that understanding, we should see Krishna. And then Krishna says that when will he appear, right? And for what purpose will he appear? And after that, in 4.9, he says that one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities will not take birth again in this material world. It is so important for us to understand this fact, because there are so many people who talk nonsense about Krishna, who don't understand anything about spirituality, but they will write, books on spirituality without having clear understanding. We discussed that, how people give commentaries on Bhagavad Gita without understanding who Krishna is. They can write. There are so many writers who have commented on Bhagavad Gita, and they sort of nullify Krishna. They say that no, this Krishna is nothing. This Krishna is more powerful living entity. That's all. It's something beyond him. that Brahma, that is what it is. You know? That is why it is so important for us to understand Evam Yuveti Tattvata, who understands the transcendental nature. Tattva. Right? Because it is highlighted that to know about someone and to know someone is, they are two different things. You can know about someone like, oh yeah, she's daughter of XYZ, and I think so she resides in A block and this flat, right? But to know the person, who will know the person? The parents, the relatives who are very close to. So knowing Krishna and knowing about Krishna are two different things. Here Krishna is saying to know me, tattvata, and then that is a qualification for us to transcend this material world and not take birth again in this material world, right? And then finally we see that how Krishna highlighted that people who are afraid, uh, who are too attached, or they get angry from all the confusions, they will not be able to understand me. Devotees, they overcome all these things, and what do they achieve?
They will not take body again. They will not
Mad
rebel
bhava,
again.
है ना? Mad bhava agata. He said 4.10. Mad bhava agata means they achieve the transcendental love for me. Mad bhava. You remember we talked about like what are the 9 stages in
Yes.
our spiritual advancement, right?
Okay.
And there is a stage bhav, right? So that bhav is love for Krishna, right? That is very important. Okay. So now Krishna will continue. Krishna will continue to highlight what? That he is the creator and culmination of all paths. What are these paths? Let's see. Okay, will someone like to recite this very important verse?
ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्तमान अनुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः.
Translation.
As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha.
Thank you. So, there are two parts of this verse. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sateva bhajam. Right? As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So here, Krishna is reciprocal. Krishna is not someone, for whom nothing matters, and no, he will reciprocate with your feelings, with your loves, with your emotion. The way you approach him, he will reciprocate accordingly. And we will discuss more about this. And the second verse is Mama Vartamana Vartante Manushya Partha Sarvasha. Mama means my. Vartama means path. Vartama, path. Anuvartante means follow. Manushya Partha Sarvasha. Manushya means all beings. Path is saying to path. Sarvasha means all in all. So here he's saying that everyone, at the end of the day, everyone follows my path. Right? So let's discuss this. Ye yatha mam prapadante tam tatheva bhajamayam mama vartamano vartante manushya partha sarvasha. Krishna rewards the devotees according to their different intensities of love for him. Padmaji, you have some question?
All no questions.
So Krishna rewards the devotees according to their intensity of love for him. Let's understand this from a simple example. Like if there are two kids, right, and one kid is crying, demanding, then mother will go to the crying kid first, right? That the crying small kid wants to be fed. Mother will go to the crying kid. Now, if a father has two sons, right? One son is very obedient, respectful, and is sincere in his studies and doesn't waste money here and there, while the other son is naughty. He'll roam around here and there, waste money and all. So father will deal accordingly with each of them. He will be very, very cautious in giving anything to the naughty son, because he may go and smoke, drink, and waste money here and there, while the first son, he will be little liberal. He will be liberal because he has faith. Like the first son is he doesn't spend money here and there. He's very cautious, very careful. So similarly, Krishna also reciprocate according to our approach. People on different path, they do not realize different things. They realize different degrees and aspects of Krishna. Now, for example, if we are all in India, right, we all have to follow the rules and regulations of Government of India. Now, there are people who are in jail, under prison, they have to follow the rules. And people, who are bureaucrats, right, they also have to follow rules and regulations. So, they have, all of us will have to follow, right? But there are different people following different kind of rules. Similarly, we have to understand that what does it mean, right? Everyone, wherever they are, whatever they are doing, they are under the rules, the laws of Vedic scriptures, regardless of who they are, where they are. Okay. Now, in the spiritual world, Krishna reciprocates with his pure devotees just as the devotee wants him. Now, it is not that his reciprocation is limited to material world. He will also accordingly reciprocate in a spiritual world. All of us will have eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. And that eternal relationship with Krishna is known as Swarup Siddhi. And it will be realized when we are in the highest platform of development of spiritual life, right? Which is known as Bhav and Prem, right? And we will develop a specific kind of relationship the way we want, right? Actually, we all have eternal transcendental relationship, and that is where we naturally will be taken to, right? Someone has a relationship of a servant, right, like Hanumanji. Someone has a friend like Uddhav, Arjun. Parents like Nand Baba, Yashoda Ma, Vasudev, Devki, right? And someone as a lover, like Gopis of Vrindavan, like queens of Dwarka, right? Like Lakshmi ji. So these all have Madhurya relationship with Krishna. So Krishna reciprocates accordingly. And in material world, he similarly reciprocates with different types of worshippers as per their approach, right? There are people who want to worship Krishna, again in different relationships or different features of Krishna, right? They want to worship Krishna as the Supreme Personality, as Bhagavan. Some people, they want to worship the partial manifestation of Krishna, which is the Super Soul, or others may end up worshipping the Krishna's bodily effulgence, which is Brahman. So there are different degrees, different types of worshippers. Now, I've specifically highlight one thing for you so that we should not get confused. So someone will like to read this.
Right.
Everyone
Please.
follows. Sorry, you carry on.
Yeah, please go ahead, Ramyaji. Sorry.
Everyone follows my path in all respects doesn't mean that whatever anyone does will achieve same end result. If this was so, then Krishna would not have highlighted different ends in 3.31 versus 3.32, as well as 4 different end result in 9.25. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me.
Thank you, Ramyaji. So, I hope this is clear to you and you will not get confused. Okay. Thing is, it does not mean that you can sit in any train and you will reach Delhi. Now, if you will sit in a train which is going to Kanyakumari, you will go to Kanyakumari. If you sit in a train which going to Hyderabad, you will reach Hyderabad, right? So it depends on which train you are sitting. Similarly, this does not mean everyone is following my path and everyone at the end will come to me, right? End means it may be eternal end, right? So why we should understand that this is not the case? Because elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is highlighting different paths. 3.30 we understood Krishna is saying work for me. And then 3.31 he says that, Shanmukhi, you will like to share?
Sure.
Yeah.
Emi matam idam nityam anutistanti manavaha shraddhavanto nasuyanto muchyante tepi karmabhihi. I think he says whoever worships me, whoever follows my injunctions without being envious,
Right.
and with faith, they will be freed from all these material reactions carried
Right.
over so many births. And
Right.
in 32, he says that who
Opposite.
doesn't, who doesn't do that, then they will never attain the perfection.
Right. Thank you very much, Shanmukhi. So Krishna clearly says that there are two paths, right? And two ends. One is going to north, other is going to south. Similarly, in 9.25, he highlights there are 4 directions. Someone who will worship demigod will only reach the demigod planet. Ancestor planet. Ghost and spirit, their planet. But someone who will worship me will come to me. Right? So this thing we should all be clear, right? Now these aspects we have discussed, right? That there are 3 aspects. Krishna, the Supreme Personality, his partial manifestation as Super Soul, and his bodily effulgence as Brahman. Okay? So these are the... Now in purport, Prabhupada is sharing this verse. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajata purusham param yajet purusham param. So whether one is without desire, like a devotee, or is desirous of all fruitive results, or is after liberation, whatever the case may be. One should with all effort try to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for complete perfection, culminating in Krishna consciousness. Akama means a devotee. He has no desire of sense gratification. Sarvakama means thousands of desires for sense gratification. Mokshkam, someone is after liberation. Udaradi. Udaradi means someone who is broad-minded. He has understanding of spiritual things. What will he do? Whatever the case may be. Tivrena bhakti yogena. Will full intensity, will full vigor, will be involved in what? Bhakti yoga. Yajet Purusham Param. Will worship Param Purush. Whose bhakti? Bhakti of not here, there, of any demigod or so-called unauthorized. In India, Prabhupada used to say every day one incarnation of God will come. And Prabhupada has highlighted really clearly, our acharyas and even scriptures, that all the incarnations are clearly mentioned in the Vedas. It is not that anyone who is doing some magic will be respected as incarnation of Vishnu or incarnation of Krishna. No, that is not the case, right? Because, for example, let's compare that in unfortunately that is so common. Someone who has some will do some magic, will have some super natural powers, will be Bhagwan this and that, right? Or this guru, that guru. So I always say that then I think so there will be so many temples of Putana, because Putana had so many powers which I think so these so-called all unauthenticated incarnations or gurus would not have. Putana could become as beautiful as Lakshmi ji, right? She could fly. She was so powerful. So we are all intelligent people. We are studying the scriptures scrutinizingly, deeply, seriously. We should understand these differences, right? All the incarnation, whatever it is, they are mentioned in our Puranas and Vedas, Upanishads. We should check from the spiritual acharyas who are coming in the authorized sampradayas. Don't waste your valuable time. We have this one life. We have taken birth in Bharatvarsh. We are very fortunate. It is very important for us, if we have a child, so how much care we take, which school he or she should go, what she should study, what clothes, what should they eat, where we should do all these things. One life, we are spending so much of botheration for these bodily things. What to talk about with soul, who have gone through millions of lives, and now we have taken this human form, that too in India, that too in Bharatvarsh. Why we want to waste this life, this opportunity? We should be very serious. That we should not waste our time, here and there in material things, and also in spirituality, we should become serious, focused, otherwise we will be lost. Krishna consistently highlights this fact. Mata parataram nanyat kinchit asti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana eva. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Mata parataram nanyat. There is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me. His pearls are strung on a thread. And then Krishna again, many times Krishna has highlighted, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo, I am the source of all spiritual and material world. Mata sarvam pravartate, I am taking care of everything. Iti matva bhajante mam, the person who knows this clearly, what does he do? Buddha bhava samanvita, with both brain and heart. Buddha bhava samanvita will worship me. Right? See, what can Krishna do? What more can Krishna do? If even then we get confused, then that is not his problem. Right? Now, the thing is, if by worshipping Krishna through the path of Bhakti Yoga, one is awarded with whatever he wants, then why do people go and worship others? Others means other demigods or maybe other people for material desires. Why? Krishna will.
Because Krishna doesn't talk. Krishna, unless he purifies heart, first he purifies the heart of the devotee, and then he awards something. So, but if you worship the demigods, you will get the benefit, and you have to bear the consequence of that karma also. There may be so many bad effects, evil effects out of that, bad consequences.
Now let's take an example. For example, if our Shanmukhji's daughter Hasini, she comes to me, Uncle, I want 1 5-star. How? And if I have nowadays, money is also not required because everyone carries phone and there's Paytm, this that you can pay. So immediately I will buy a chocolate for Hasini. But if Hasini asks the same thing from our Shanmukh Prabhu, what will happen? Shanmukhji will open full history geography, right? We'll check with Mataji and all this. She may get chocolate maybe 2-3 days from now, even if she gets, right? So now that is the difference between Krishna and demigod. Krishna is our father. Krishna is like our mother. He will take care, he will make sure first that this thing, whatever he is asking, it should not harm my devotee, my son. Well, demigods, they are like more transactional. They are more like transaction. That, for example, if you have 20 rupees and you go to the shop and give 20 rupees, the person can give you a commodity worth 20, whatever you are asking. So you give and the shopkeeper will give you whatever you want for that 20 rupees. So that is an exchange, right? Which is, without, he will not take care of what are you going to do with that commodity, right? So that's like a demigod. While Krishna, first he will see what are you going to do with this thing. He will make sure that this thing is not going to spoil your spiritual life. So this is an example of Dhruv Maharaj. Dhruv Maharaj, he was also desirous of what? He was desirous of kingdom bigger than his father, right? Uttanpad. So Krishna appeared, and Krishna blessed him. And then Dhruv Maharaj, and then he asked, what do you want? He says, I don't want anything. I was looking for broken pieces of glass. Now I have got diamond.
Diamond.
So I don't want anything. And then finally, when Krishna was persistent, you know what did Dhruv ask? Give me association of pure devotees. That is something very important for us to understand. Difference between Krishna and demigods. And you saw in 9.25, Krishna is saying, you worship demigod, you will go reach their planet. But if you worship me, you will come to my planet. So there is a difference. Please don't think that demigods are also like Krishna. That is one of the, aparad. Considering demigods, they are equal or higher than Krishna is aparad. So we should be very clear. Right? Now, here is an example. Who is this?
Devotee.
Huh? Yeah, Brahmaji is there. Who worship Brahmaji in a way that, it all happened ant hill and yes. Hiranyakashipu, yes. Hiranyakashipu is father of Prahlad Maharaj, right? Prahlad, yes. So, what did he do? He worshipped Brahmaji. He asked Brahmaji, what did he ask? Give me benediction that I should not die. Brahmaji said, I am going to die. How can I give you this benediction? This is not under my power. Then he said, okay, give me benediction that I will not die. This, that, here, there. Right? Everything he asked. Up and down, inside, outside, night, day, this, with weapon or nothing. And then, at the end, what happened? He created chaos in the society. And who had to come to kill him? Narasimha. So Krishna has to appear in a special form. And then you know what did Narasimha said to Brahmaji? Brahmaji, please think before giving these benedictions. You give all these things and then I have to bother myself. And these people then bother my devotees. So Brahmaji does not have this control. Why? If you ask him something, if you chant the specific mantras, he is bound to give. And who is this?
Bhasmasura.
Bhasmasur was a devotee of Shivji. He prayed, he chanted mantras and all, and finally he satisfied Shivji. Shivji came. Shivji's other name is what?
Bholanath.
Ashutosh. Ashutosh means one who is satisfied so fast. So Bhasmasur worshipped Shivji. And Shivji came, what do you want? Give me benediction that I become so powerful, if I put my hand on anyone's head, the person will die immediately. Shivji said, Tathastu. And then what did Bhasmasur do? Let me try putting this hand on your head. And then Shivji ran. And then who had to come to protect him? Krishna had to take a very special incarnation for this, which is what? Mohini Roop. And then Krishna made Bhasmasur to bhasma his own head by trekking him. So, these two examples we are seeing here. So now, we will see why do people still worship demigods. Krishna highlights that in verse number 12. Who will like to read this?
Yeah, I'll read.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, since I came second time. Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. The paths of bhakti and jnana give liberation, but the path of karma leads to bondage. Does it mean that there is some inequality in Krishna, the creator of all paths? No. Krishna has created the four varnas for people who have particular desires for enjoyment.
Thank you, Dipesh. So, in verse number 12, what is Krishna highlighting? Even though they know, right, that to devotees, whoever approaches me, I give them whatever they want. It is not that everyone is a pure devotee. If you go to our Braj, there are so many people who are doing parikrama of Girirajji, Govardhan. Govardhan Girirajji is a form of Krishna. And many people circumambulate Govardhan, 21 kilometers. Not everyone is a pure devotee. Many of them are doing parikrama because they have some material desire. So Krishna is not saying that if you have material desire, then you don't worship me. He's not saying that. But what he is saying is, why do people worship demigods? Because they desire success in fruitive activities. And they are looking for quick results. In 7th chapter, he will use a very good adjective for these people that we will see when we will do 7th chapter. If you are interested, you can look, right? So I'll open the suspense. He says they are fools, right? And because they are approaching it in an incorrect way, they are spoiling their life. In Bhagavad Gita, everything is crystal clear. Everything is crystal clear. Now someone can say, as Dipesh has read this, that then what is this that people on path of jnana and bhakti, they attain liberation, even though a different kind they attain liberation. But karma, people on the path of karma, what happens is it is karma bandhana. So is Krishna partial? No, Krishna is not partial. Krishna actually has created a society, a well-structured society, and he has given everything for everyone, which is what he is highlighting in subsequent verse.
Sumitji, one quick question. So in that Bhagavatam verse, it is mentioned that even people with fruitive desires should worship Krishna because Krishna will purify the heart and then award what he deserves probably. But why it was said even for the liberation, how they will attain the supreme if they have the fruitive desires? In that verse it was mentioned.
They will say, even people who are after Brahma Jyoti, they worship Krishna in kind of devotion. You see them. That's see, there are two kind of Brahmavadi and Mayavadi. Brahmavadi, they are worshipper of Brahma Jyoti.
Brahma Jyoti.
They are not blasphemous to Krishna. But Mayavadis are blasphemous. They say that no, he is a boy and his body is same as our body. So there are two in impersonal worshippers also there are two branches, Mayavad and Brahmavad. So Brahmavad, they worship Krishna in a devotional form, but they aim for liberation in Brahma Jyoti.
So that is the desire meaning in that.
Yes.
I mean the commentary.
Yes. And Prabhupada will clarify that in the middle 6 chapters when there is a section where Krishna will speak about this.
Yes.
That ekvatena, prathaktvena, uh, all these things. So there Prabhupada will explain us, and he will then talk about Brahmavadis. Right?
So the perfection here, I should assume that those who are desirous of Brahma Jyoti, right? That is what,
Pardon?
because the because in the meaning of that Bhagavatam verse, it is mentioned that even people who worships with fruitive desires, they will attain perfection. If they worship Krishna.
Yeah, like Dhruv Maharaj.
Yes.
Dhruv Maharaj worshipped Krishna for what?
He worshipped for something else, but Krishna wanted to bless him with the same, but he doesn't want that because he is already purified by that time.
Yeah, no. Dhruv Maharaj got purified with what? When Narayan Bhagwan touched his conch shell on his forehead. Right? So yes. Krishna purified him. So if we worship, and we will see that there are 4 kinds of worshippers. Right? And Krishna says that all of them
4 different.
Artho, Artharthi, Jnani, and Jigyasu. Right? So Krishna says they are all magnanimous. Krishna is saying all of them are magnanimous. At least they are approaching me. Okay? So whether for fruitive activities, whether for liberation, or whether you are a pure devotee, you should do devotion. Don't, because what did this do? Hiranyakashipu and Bhasmasura.
Fruitive desires, but worship the demigods.
Yes. So Krishna, see, at the end of the day, all of us are living entities. And all of us, whether who is bad, demon or devotee, we are all children of Krishna. And Krishna actually loves us equally. And Krishna wants us to be back. Right? Whether it is a good boy or a bad, naughty boy. A father will like everyone to be good, right? Gradually, how can I help the person? So, Krishna is saying that, somehow or the other, if you do my bhakti, then I will purify. And that is why in Bhagavatam, what is the difference in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita? In Bhagavatam, we'll see so many examples which fit in our mind. So many stories of devotees and also demons. How these demons are spoiling their life, so we should be precautious. How we should follow on the path of a devotee. Right? It's like sort of a movie of what philosophy is given in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad. It's like a different type of lesson learned presentation from devotees and different depth. How we can really follow this path.
Sumit-ji, one question. So, see, we will have people like Bhasmasura.
I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now? Is it clear? Hello?
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Dipeshji, can you please repeat?
Now, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I was asking to the slides we just looked at from the path, the way some of them, some devotees will pray to demigods for their fruitive results, right? So example given like Hiranyakashipu or Bhasma, or even Ravan, who prayed to Shiv for becoming some more powerful. And so we are not sure whether these people were looking at liberation or being in a devotee state of mind. They wanted something and they got it. Of course, they went the arrogant way after that, once they received the boon or received the fruitive results. So what does Lord Krishna say? That there will be people like them. So does it mean that these people should be destructed or they should reach an end? Or how is it? Because not everyone will follow the path of bhakti and jnana. Because they might not want it. It's depend on some people, right? Like if we can go and talk to Ravana, he might never want bhakti or liberation. Of course, he was a very learned scholar is what we understand, but not sure, right?
Hmm.
So what, I mean, I don't know, maybe later down Krishna might say something about them as well, but
So what is your question, Dipesh ji?
so question is, uh, there will be people, right, who will take the path of worshipping the demigods.
Right.
Perhaps
So
they may never come into this right path of bhakti and jnana, right?
right.
So yeah,
There's so
so
many people, right? Even
yes,
now, right? So that is why Krishna is highlighting it in Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna actually wants everyone, should follow things in a proper manner. But then he highlights there will be few people, right? As we see from our practical life example also, that people understand smoking is not good, and now government has, on the this cigarette box or this tobacco, there is it compulsory to paste a photograph of a cancer,
right.
of a mouth cancer. But even after seeing that photograph, do they understand? They even eat, right?
Hmm.
So all the endeavors and efforts are to help make people understand. Regardless, some of them will not.
Right.
So after Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna willing, we will study Chetan Charitamrita. And there, again, it is a very, very deep philosophy that they are highlighted that there are two kind of jeev. There is eternally bound and there other is eternally liberated. So some of them fall into the category they are eternally bound. But we will understand that later. Okay. Yes, for now, but devotees are very compassionate. Why do we go out on streets to distribute books? Distribute Bhagavad Gita. Why on 27 January we will go, 27 December we will go and distribute books to college students and all? Because we feel bad how these people are spoiling their life and we know what we are getting from bhakti, right? If a father tells to their children, please study, please don't do this, please do this, because father has experience. Similarly, devotees, they have experience, either from their own life, or they have been taught, or they have read. So we feel compassion that people are spoiling their life. They're running fast towards hell. So that is compassion of devotees. And Krishna says that there is no better person than one who preaches this knowledge to others. Right? So yeah, let's try our best to help as many as we can.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. So then Krishna highlights that no, he has made a division in society very systematic by which people can approach him. So someone would like to recite this?
I'll recite. चतुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं गुणकर्म विभागसाः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्य कर्तारमव्ययम्. According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am at the non-doer, being unchangeable.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anand. So let me share with you a life example of what happened yesterday. Yesterday we went for book distribution in one market. So I was talking to that person, and he was all negative, said, no, there is nothing in life, nothing can help me, you know. And I said, like, why are you feeling so helpless? And then he started crying. And he said that you cannot understand because you cannot understand Kannada. And I can share with you my things only, in my language. So then I took along with me Nikita ji, because I wanted to really understand that person. So then we went, and we were listening to that person, we were talking. When we were talking to that person, there was another person who was observing us. And that person, he could see that we are really, trying to help that person. We are busy. So he said that, sir, can you please give me your phone number? I would like to speak to you. I gave my number and I took his number. I said, fine, I'll call you. And then after an hour or two, when we were returning, I saw that person. And I said, do you want to speak to me over phone, or you are free? Then we can talk now. He said, fine, I want to talk to you now. And he said that I am from a Shudra community. I am from a Shudra community. And people of higher caste, they don't allow us to enter in the temple. And they don't touch us, and they make us feel so low, and they do so much of discrimination and all this, what we see in movies. And this person was telling me. And then, taking advantage of this, people from South Korea have come, they have established a church, and many of our community people have converted into Christianity. I was in my dhoti kurta. I took his hand and touched him. And I said that I am touching you. And I had a Bhagavad Gita in my hand. I gave him Bhagavad Gita. See, I told him that there may be people who are fools and who will do these things. But people who are devotees and who understand spirituality and religion, they will never do this. Because we are all Atma. And actually, everyone in Kali Yuga is a Shudra. It is said in Bhagavatam that everyone in Chetan Charitamrita also, that everyone in Kali Yuga is a Shudra. And this is not dependent on your birth, my friend. This is dependent on activities. Right? And I consoled that person, and So here we are seeing what Krishna is saying. This is something which is very rampant again in our society. But Krishna here is saying, Chaturvarnam Maya Srishtam, that these 4 divisions I have created. Maya Srishtam, I have created. On what basis have I created? Guna Karma Vibhagasha. On the basis of Guna and Karma. The nature and the work associated with. Psychophysical nature. On the basis of that. Not on the basis of birth. Shanmukh your father is not an engineer and my father was not a doctor. Now, if everything has to be defined by birth, then we would not have been doctors and engineers, right?
Yes.
So it is not dependent on birth. And Krishna, nowhere in the scripture is it mentioned that it is dependent on birth. Thereafter, Krishna says, Tasya kartaram api ma. I am the creator of this system. But please understand. What should we understand? I am
beyond this and non-doing.
Avayam kartaram. I am not the doer. I am above this. Right? And then Prabhupada in the purport describes that what are these 4 divisions, Brahmana, the intelligence class. They are in primarily mode of goodness. Right? Primarily. Then Kshatriyas are in mode of passion. They are like administrative class. Then Vaishyas, mercantile class, mix of passion and ignorance. And then Shudras, labor class, mode of ignorance. Right? Now, is this only in India? or this was only in Vedic times?
No, all the time it is
So
true.
all the time, everywhere.
Baba, this is also there in our companies. There is intelligent class, scientist working in R&D. Kshatriyas, administrative class, all the leadership team. Then there is a finance department, right? And then there are operational people, associates who are doing all the work. You take any place and you will find these four divisions. And they are dependent not on birth, they are dependent on psychophysical nature. Guna karma vibhagasha. Right? And there is a long description about these modes in the last 6 chapters. And of these four divisions, in 18th chapter from 41 to 44, 45, you will see the description. We'll discuss this, But we have to understand it is like this. If there is a building, mode of ignorance, people who are in mode of ignorance, what they will do? If, for example, here there is a bar, discotheque and all, they will go there. Mode of ignorance. The first floor, there is a, someone working, playing this, that, dance and all this, they will go there. Mode of ignorance, mode of passion. And up, they're peaceful, there's some yoga and, temple and all, mode of goodness, people will go there. It is dependent on which mode they are in. It is dependent on which mode they are in. Right? So, Krishna has created this different set of duties depending on the psychophysical nature. Okay, now we move on to the 14th verse. What is Krishna saying? Krishna said, what does Krishna say? Vidya kartaram avyayam. That I have created this. Tasya kartaram apimam. Vidya akartaram avyayam. Although I have created this, please understand that I am not the doer. And I am unchangeable. Now again Krishna is going to highlight his position. What is his position with these things? Right? Krishna appeared in a Kshatriya family and he performed activities according to being a Kshatriya. So, someone will like to read this verse, Sanskrit, and also the translation.
Yeah, I'll try.
Yeah, please, Harsh.
न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति नामे कर्मा फले स्पर इति मां यो विजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work.
Thank you. So he says that there is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions. This verse is almost similar to 4.9. Janam karm chame devyam evam yuveti tattvata tyaktva deham punarjanmam neti mameti. So Arjuna, that person who understands my appearance and activities, tattvata, he will not take birth again. And here also Krishna is saying that someone who knows my transcendental nature of activities will not be entangled. Right? Almost similar. And a verse related to this we have also gone in 3rd chapter.
3.22.
3.22, right? So,
Fantastic.
right? Again, here Krishna is saying that there is no work prescribed for me within all the 3 planetary systems. Nor am I in want of anything, nor am I need to obtain anything. And yet I am engaged in prescribing. So he has nothing to do, but then also he's doing it. Right? So we have to understand this clearly. Right? So these things, if we understand that his birth is transcendental, his activities are transcendental, these things are not going to impact him. This is all in all. Why? You won't believe there are so many people who say, hey, because Ram Bhagwan did that and that, he is karma, and because he has to, live his karma, he has taken as a Krishna, and that is why he got this. Now I don't know where on this whole universe will that they get placed. Not even in hell. They are saying these things. Not even hell they will get the place to stay. People who are saying that Ram and Krishna are under the laws of karma. If you see 7.14, Devi Yasya Gunmai Mammaya Duruttaya Mam Evye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. Devi Yasya Gunmai, that Devi is one of my energies. Mam Maya Duruttaya. But that Devi is very difficult to overcome. Mamevye prapadyante. But someone who surrenders onto me, Maya etam tarantite, he will easily overcome. So, if someone who surrenders onto Krishna will overcome the bondage of the modes, then what about Krishna himself? Krishna, one of Krishna's energy is Maya Devi. Krishna is ever touched by Maya. He's never under the modes. He's always transcendental. What to talk about Krishna? His devotees also, his pure devotees, they are transcendental. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we will see there are so many verses highlighting the qualities of devotees. Right? So we have to understand this very clearly. Lavanya, you have any question? Okay, so here we see, now you see how transcendental are they. For example, this is Ram Bhagwan on the ocean front when he wanted to cross the ocean. You know, he prayed to ocean because he was Maryada Purushottam. He prayed to ocean, please give us way. What did ocean do? Did ocean give way?
Did not respond.
Then,
place. And he said that he will dry up the whole ocean. That's it.
Dry up the whole ocean just by looking at it. Just by looking at it fiercely, the ocean was trembling, the ocean god. Right? Just by mere glancing Krishna, right, through, if you see Karana Daksha Vishnu, he is just breathing in and out, and the whole universe are coming from the pores of his body. Right? What are we are doing these satellites? How much brain we are putting? Scientists who are working on these things, they are one of the most intelligent people. They are very intelligent. The swimming pool is small. Is this sagar, that sagar, Shirodaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Sagar, Karanadaksha Sagar, Sheer Sagar, all these. Just by willing they are getting them. And we have to understand that Lord is impartial. Krishna is impartial. Someone would like to read this.
Lord is impartial. Living entity is responsible for his own acts. The Lord only gives him facility through his material nature. The rain pours water on all seeds, and according to the type of seed, they all sprout into different plants. Similarly, Lord only inspires jivas to act, but they act according to their past desires.
Right? So Krishna is not partial. We'll see later on. Actually, Krishna is little partial. Krishna says that I am not partial to anyone, but 9th chapter. But I live in my heart of my devotees, and my devotees live in my heart. So it's like that. But otherwise, if you see generally saying Krishna is impartial, it is compared with the rain, right? So the tree, the creeper, whatever it is, comes out dependent on the seed sown, right? So it is similar cases with us. Depends on our karmas, our desires. And again, Prabhupada highlighted that in his purport, what we just discussed. Someone would like to read this?
I can read. Sir. One who does not know the transcendental nature of the Lord and who thinks that of the Lord are aimed at fruitive results, as are the activities of the ordinary living entities, certainly becomes entangled himself in fruitive reactions. But one who knows the supreme truth is a liberated soul, fixed in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Badri. So here I will specially use this Krishna dancing on Kaliya Nag. So Krishna can dance on Kaliya Nag. But what will happen to us who will think that Krishna can get entangled in his and his activities are fruitive activities? No, his activities are transcendental. What he can do, we cannot even imagine. He's transcendental. We will get entangled forever. So we have to understand Krishna is transcendental. And then Krishna highlights that how people acted and how we should act with this understanding. All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps. So, we as devotees, we should try to understand how should we lead our life from a previous predecessor acharyas, spiritual or current acharyas. We should seek their advice, their guidance, what we should be doing, how we should be doing. It is very important because they understand things. One more verse will come in this chapter, that how we should approach our spiritual master. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya updeshanti te jnanam jnanina tattva darshina. Because he can see the truth, that is why he can help us. But how should we approach? Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. That we should be very humble, we should be very respectful, we should serve him, and we should humbly ask questions. That is important. And having said that, we should work, looking at example of previous acharyas, Krishna in subsequent verses will say that we should not work independently. We should not work independently. Right? And Prabhupada in the purport shares two important things which I have highlighted here. Someone will read this?
There are two classes of men. Some of them are full of polluted material things within their hearts, and some of them are materially free. Krishna consciousness is equally beneficial for both of these persons. Those who are full of dirty things can take to the line of Krishna consciousness for a gradual cleansing process, following the regulative principles of devotional service. Those who are already cleansed of the impurities may continue to act in the same Krishna consciousness so that others may follow their exemplary activities and thereby be benefited. Thank you.
Right? So, Krishna consciousness is applicable for everyone. For someone to be an example, for others to purify themselves. Like when we go out and distribute books, many people will say, "Oh, I cannot even touch Gita, why? I've just eaten non-veg." I said, patient should go to a hospital or not? Baba, a patient should go to a hospital. If patient is saying, just because I am sick, I should not go to the hospital, you are saying like that. If you are impure, then only you should take this and, try to understand this and apply this in your life. So people, they have a lot of misconceptions. That because I am this, I cannot do this, because this. And so how can we understand these things? When we approach a devotee who can help us understand things. And it is not just we are approaching and we will continue to do all what we were doing in past. Then it will not help. It will not help. Right? we should be open to change. Right? In corporate, we give a change management training whenever there is a change. So I think so we should also go through that change management training. Right? And also Prabhupada highlights this. Someone will read.
Arjuna's desire to retire from activities on the battlefield was not approved by the Lord. One need only know how to act. To retire from the activities of Krishna consciousness and to sit aloof, making a show of Krishna consciousness is less important than actually engaging in the field of activities for the sake of Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So it is important for us to understand that it is we studied in third chapter that inaction is unnatural, right? So retiring or becoming a devotee does not mean inactivity. Becoming a devotee means
Acting on behalf of Krishna.
on behalf of Krishna, right? And this thing, Shanmukji, what you just said, acting on behalf of Krishna, is what is going. We will discuss in subsequent verses. That what is it? Acting on behalf of Krishna, acting with knowledge, right? So now I just want to check if anyone has any question, any comment, anything.
I have one question. In the verse number 2 in the purport, Prabhupada ji highlighted that we should follow Arjuna's disciplic succession of from Arjuna. So what does it exactly mean? Is there any disciplic succession?
Disciplic succession from Arjuna, it means that we have to follow the Vaishnav Sampradayas.
Okay.
Right? Arjuna means Bhakto Sime Sakhache.
Sakacheti. Okay.
So these are Vaishnav Sampradaya, and as has already been highlighted in Padma Purana. Right?
And the other question I have is, we know that one Manvantara is like, we have 71 Divya Yugas, and then one Manvantara is for every 14 Divya Yugas, there will be one Manu. So what was mentioned here is that the age of current Manu is calculated as some 30 crore 53 lakhs years, out of which 12 crore 4 lakh years have already passed. So current Manvantara is Vaivashvata Manvantara.
Seventh Manu.
Yeah, seventh Manu. How do we know this calculation? We know the calculation that Manvantara is, we have to divide everything by 14, so we will get that. But how do we know how many of the years were passed for that current Manu?
So that is mentioned in Vedic scriptures that this is our Vaivashvata Manu, right?
That is
correct. Will be seventh in line. So all the Manus are mentioned. All the 14 Manus are mentioned. This is our Vaivashvat Manu we are going, and this is the 28th Divya Yoga of
28th Divya Yoga of Vaivashvat Manu.
28th Divya Yoga of Vaivashvat Manu.
Okay. So then 28 times of that one Divya Yoga should give that number, right? 27.
28?
No, 27 times of that Divya Yoga should give this number.
Already.
Okay.
That is why I think so. I've shared in past also that is why these pastimes may not be always same, right? So in one, like in Swambhu Manu, there will be little twist in pastime. So sometimes people say, "Arey, in this scripture this is said like that. In that scripture it is said like that. How come there is discrepancy?" The discrepancy is because that scripture is telling it's not only about our Vaivashvat Manu. You will see that it is Swambhuva Manu. Even in Bhagavatam it is mentioned about Nilvara, Shwetvara, this Manu. Sometimes they don't mention that it is in this Manu or it in this Dev Yoga. So it need not be just same, right? So yeah, that we should also understand. So thank you all, and I will stop the recording.